2026, the year that agentic AI becomes the attack surface poster child. I truly believe that this area in particular with AI right now is really going to lead to a lot of focus on the cybersecurity side, and most importantly for you guys watching at home, more cybersecurity jobs. This is something that I say a lot on this channel, but I want to really back it up with real events that are happening in the news right now so that you can see this is not just a talking point. I have real reason to believe this. Now, if you're not familiar with agentic AI, essentially, if you think of the most simple scenario of chatbots, things like ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, Grok, all of that. The next layer of it is to create what's called an AI agent. So think of like an assistant that is trained up on a specific task. And a lot of times you'll give this assistant access to other things, maybe the ability to access some of the documents in your Google Drive or to read your emails or whatever you plug into it. It basically extends the functionality of just the LLM chatbot that we had before into something really useful for, automation, in theory, making our lives easier. But like I say all the time on this channel, the more bells and whistles something has, the larger the attack surface and the easier and the higher chance that it could get hacked, compromised, whatever. By the way, if you're new to this channel, my name is Ryan from Elevate Cyber. I'm a cybersecurity professional with over a decade of experience from Fortune 500 companies to the US government. And, in this video, we're going to deep dive into this topic here. In this one, they're kind of breaking down the predictions on what is most likely to happen in 2026 when it comes to security. And they said that agentic AI is top of mind. It ranked as the top of mind in the survey that they ran, where over 48% of the respondents voted on that. And some of the runners-up were things like deepfakes from top social engineering vector for big targets. So, a lot of the AI stuff, with Sora capabilities coming out for AI, has led to more social engineering attacks and trying to trick the user into believing, fake news, essentially. So they think that's going to be one of the leaders as well. And then password elimination and passkey adoption becoming the norm. We're seeing a lot of companies shift away from that, recognizing cyber risk as tier 1 operational priority. But let's focus in on the agentic AI part, because that was by far and away the winner here. It says nearly half of the respondents believe that agentic AI will represent the top attack vector for cyber criminals and nation-state threats by the end of 2026. We're right now in February. We still got a long way to go, so we'll see how things play out on this channel. I'll be keeping you guys up to date. But I also want to back this up with some real examples in the news of exactly already what we're seeing, even though we're only, one full month into the year, basically. And that was this one here. OpenClaw AI runs wild in business environments. If you guys have at all had your finger on the pulse of cybersecurity news recently, you've probably been hearing about, or not even just just tech news in general, ClaudeBot that was then renamed to Moltbot. Now it's going by the name OpenClaw. And this is like an AI super assistant that has access to all your stuff and can do everything, whatever you give it access to. If that doesn't raise the alarms in your head that, okay, there should be some security implications here, then I don't know what will. But this is a pretty interesting technology that's been really hyped lately, and it's taken off on GitHub. One of the things they talk about is the fastest growing project on GitHub at the moment, at least as of the time of this recording, February 5th. But yeah, there's a lot of security concerns with it as well. So essentially what this is, it's an AI assistant that enhances ChatGPT and Claude. Basically, it takes the base ChatGPT and Claude, allows you to basically connect everything to it, like Telegram, WhatsApp, your Google Drive, your Gmail, your everything. You give it this super level of access, and it can go and operate as like your virtual AI assistant and basically do whatever you want it to do. If we dive into this a little bit further, creates persistent non-human identities and accesses paths that fall outside of traditional IAM, identity and access management, and create secrets controls. So it can execute, a lot of times execute terminal commands, run scripts, browse the web, read and write files, control browsers, retain memory access across sessions, and proactively act on a user's behalf. So that's a big attack surface if you're at all thinking of the security side of things. But despite that, it is skyrocketing in popularity, surging in less than a week to more than 113,000 stars on GitHub, which is a way of bookmarking or showing interest in a repository of code, up from 7,800 January 24. To kind of dive into this further, it says the viral sensation has also attracted cybersecurity worries. AI agents are more and more as AI agents become more and more helpful with the amount of access we give it, that also kind of brings in more security threats, like we're saying, right? And they're actually coining the term bring your own AI system. And here's the thing, a lot of people are using this that are working for companies trying to automate aspects of their job, and so they're actually plugging up their company data, which is really putting a huge risk on these companies, right? Because one thing you guys have to understand, and you'll know this if you dived into any of the research AI vulnerabilities right now, there's one vulnerability called prompt injection, and it's an inherent flaw in how these LLMs are constructed. As of right now, there's no reliable way to defend against this vulnerability. Every single AI LLM is vulnerable to prompt injection. Just some have better guardrails than others, but there's no definitive way to prevent this vulnerability. So every single LLM is vulnerable to this, and it's really deadly. It's really powerful. So with prompt injection, you can manipulate the AI and a lot of times leak secrets. You can get it to perform things that are out of scope. You can jailbreak it. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's prompt injection. If you're interested, by the way, I'll put a link in the cards to a video series that I did showing you step by step how to identify this vulnerability and how to attack against it. We've done many labs on that in this series, so you can check that one out. I'll put it in the cards. I'll also put it down in the description below. Back to the video here. This is something that pretty much all of them are vulnerable to. So if you're giving sensitive data to these LLMs, then that sensitive data is not secure. There's going to be a way to leak that. If someone spends enough time to figure it out. And so what that means for companies, the risk is you could have what they call shadow IT. This was always a thing, by the way, even before the advent of AI. You had people at your company that might have some rogue servers or, rogue technology in the environment that the IT department wasn't aware of, that a lot of times contained unpatched stuff with vulnerabilities or, different security issues out there. The company wasn't aware. They had to go proactively hunt this stuff down. That's why they call it shadow IT. Well, you're also seeing a lot of employees at these companies are using these new and emerging tools like this that are not fully, secure. In some cases like this, the more alarming part is by design, they're not secure. And these people are using it because it's convenient and they're exposing your company data to it. I think a lot of companies are going to be really trying to hunt this down and look for people that understand the security side of AI so that they can secure their environment from this stuff. And a lot of times these companies are going to want to be using the latest and greatest technology, things like this, and they're going to need security experts that understand the security side so they can do it in a secure way to keep their company intact. That is where I'm seeing things going right now. But if we get back to the article here, Pillar Security, a provider of secure AI solutions, warned that online attackers are already scanning the internet for default Moltbot, or now what they call OpenClaw ports. So if you don't know, when you run OpenClaw, it exposes a port on your device, and attackers can scan for this to determine if your server is using this. And if it is, then they're going to start trying to attack it, use all the known attacks that are successful against this to try to breach your stuff. And if they get access to something, think about it, if they get access to something that has like God level of access, you gave it access to everything, right? Maybe you gave it access to your Telegram, your WhatsApp, your Google Drive, your Gmail, your ability to run terminal commands on your system and read and write files. Well, guess what? If that gets compromised, the attacker can do that, can fully control all of that as well through the bot. So that's why this is so lucrative to attackers. So you're already seeing them scan the internet looking for these out there. And then, they've been using authentication bypass attacks against it to basically be able to access your bot without even knowing the credentials. Token Security warned that among its customers, 22% of employees were using ClaudeBot. So that's actually fairly significant, especially if you think of one of these Fortune 500 companies, which I can tell you has maybe 200,000 employees or something like that in some of these cases, right? Think about 22% of that. We're talking about a lot of people. We're talking about a pretty significant threat, raising the specter of the AI agent becoming a fast-growing shadow IT challenge. So they're saying companies need to take care because these AI agents are susceptible to prompt injection. Like I was saying earlier, they all are. just inherently, and even the leaders, people like Sam Altman and really smart guys in cybersecurity, Jason Haddix, have already come together and said, hey, I don't know if we're ever gonna be able to fully find a way to protect against this, because it's kind of just inherent in how the LLMs work that it cannot discern between data and what's the prompt. For example, if you have an AI agent or any kind of LLM and you're saying like, hey, summarize this document, for example. If someone puts a prompt inside that document, instead of summarizing it, it's going to get to that part in the document and think that it's part of the prompt, and it's going to likely start executing that as part of the prompt because it has no way to discern the data plane from the, from the prompt. And so that is one of the things they haven't figured out as of yet, how to secure against that. And they're kind of concerned right now, the experts, that they're ever going to get to that point. So maybe they will, maybe they'll find a magical solution to it in the future. But as of right now, this is a huge, huge security challenge. And for us, a huge opportunity if we understand this technology well and how it works. Yeah, the latest risk illustrates a broader trend of companies rushing into AI, which is something I say all the time on this channel, of why this technology is creating so many job opportunities for AI. Why? Because these companies are rushing in, trying to be the first to the market. They're just thinking profit, profit, profit. They weren't really thinking through just how much of security overhead this is creating. And now they're going to be, I think in 2026, retroactively going back and being like, well, wait, we need to secure this stuff. Or, our company's reputation is on the line. Our revenue is now on the line, because if we get breached, if we get hacked, then that's going to be a huge problem. Everyone's more concerned before on the competitive danger of being left behind on the technology without sort of rushing in without fully understanding the security ramifications, like I was saying. And I think just to kind of summarize, in 2025, the whole thing was, oh, here's this crazy technology, but we got to be careful on how we use it because we don't want to give it too much privileged access. Now in 2026, we're like, screw it. Let's just give it access to everything and see what happens, right? So we have stuff like Moltbot, which you can give it access to everything. Like, hey, let's just run this experiment. Like, even the creator of Moltbot was like, this stuff's not that secure, but you're piloting a frontier project, so give it a little bit of access and then expand out later. But of course, no one's doing that, right? People are just diving in. They're, okay, it works well this way. Okay, give it access to everything. Everything just works. Let's just do that. A lot of times, though, I think the problem is that the default way to use it is give it access to everything, rather than the default being this like constrained version and you got to go out of your way to give it access to everything. I digress. What do you guys think about this technology? Pretty crazy times to be in. I think one thing's for sure, we're going to hear a lot more about AI security as 2026 progresses. And hey, if you're watching this right now and you're like, wow, this is crazy, I want to learn more about this, I don't know too much about this yet, well, guess what? A lot of people don't. And that's why this is the perfect time to learn this stuff if you want to stand out in the current job market. So if you want to keep learning, you want to learn more about prompt injection, all of these chatbots are vulnerable to, you want to get hands-on with that? Well, check out the video down in the description below where we will walk through labs and get you actually doing this stuff. So not only can you say I have this skill, but you can actually prove it so that you can land one of these jobs and be able to hit the ground running.